Oh, greetings and salutations. Now, yesterday's video I mentioned that I was going to spend an hour a day on this dart, and I'm going to stick to it for as long as I can. Don't worry, there'll be a bus update soon. But yesterday, I think I spent a total of 2 hours on this. I re-DA'd the hood. I did the top of the deck lid. I did the top of the fenders up to the door and to this belt line. I missed a spot here on both sides. Today I'm going to continue this all the way to the front of the car down to this belt line, and I'm going to do the hood. And I probably won't get to it today, but you notice I shaved the vent here in the front. If you're a purist and that pisses you off, I'm sorry. I also shaved the front and rear marker lights. Well, reflectors, they're not marker lights. And also shaved the body line that was right here, the seam. Because I can. Now, let me explain what I'm doing here. I'm using a DA. So it's known in the trade, a dual action sander. This has an offset shaft. If you don't know what a DA is, the head spins independent of the motor, right? And it sands like this. And I'm using 120 grit paper. Now, for those of you who are in the know, you might say, well, that's not a heavy enough grit. If you're gonna spray primer on there, you need to spray it into something like 80 grit. Yeah, I understand, but 80 grit's not going to get rid of all this rust. 120 grit will. It's called sanding into the white. You get a nice clean surface. And then I'll come through after everything is sanded and before I spray primer, and I'll hit it again with 80 grit to give it some mechanical tooth. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But today I'm just using 120 grit.
And I'm also using my old respirator as a dust filter because yesterday I took a shower and I was horking up gray boogers. Use a respirator. This particular one is a charcoal filter made by 3M. Specifically, this mask is 20 years old. I don't use this one for painting. I got a new one for painting. There'll be a link in the description, along with replacement filters.
You know, that don't look like a whole lot of surface rust, right? Well, once you compare it to a clean piece of metal, it's quite a bit. I would also like to point out a mistake that I made a few years ago. It's not a mistake to use this technique, to use tape to sharpen a body line, especially when that body line has been a little bit warped by welding up holes. And right on that crease is where the factory put the holes to bolt the clips that hold the trim on. and I wanted to have a nice, clean, crisp body line here, so I used a tape line to establish that body line. I left the tape on, and you might be able to get away with it in spots like this. I wanted to protect the paint from the fasteners because this doesn't see any sunlight. I did it in the trunk as well, and that tape came off in the sun. You know, it wasn't outside or anything, just the sunlight coming into the garage. It solidifies the adhesive. It makes it hard. So that will mess your day up. So I'm probably gonna have to sand that down, and once I sand that down, then I'm gonna lose some height in the body filler. Fortunately, on this side of the car, I hadn't finished the body filler yet, so it wasn't brought up to its full height. So if you're gonna do it yourself paint job, and you don't know all that much about doing body work, just remember, don't use the stuff at Home Depot. Get the automotive 3M tape. Don't cheap out on tape. Get automotive 3M tape. And then, it's not cheap, but you'll thank me later. And then understand that this is really only gonna, you should really only keep it on the vehicle for a few days. That's why I took the tape off all the windows except the windshield, because that's stuck to glass. It's not stuck to the body. And when you paint, typically when you spray a car and you've got it masked off, you want to strip the tape while the paint is still not wet. Maybe once it's tacked off, and once it's past that sticky phase, but it hasn't quite hardened yet, like maybe an hour or two after you paint, you might want to think about stripping the tape and demask the thing. And here's why. If you wait until the paint is dry and cured and you strip your masking off, then you could lift the paint or the clear or whatever it is you're painting, you could lift it with the tape and actually peel that, because it's not fully cured for another 30 days. You could actually delaminate that because it'll stick to the tape, and when you strip the tape off, it might pull it and tear the clear. If you do it while it's still tacky, then when you pull the tape, the edges won't tear, and they'll tend to what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of settle in, so the tape line won't be as pronounced. Just something for you to consider. I always strip mine almost immediately. I need to go potty and get a lighter jacket on because I'm sweating my nuts off. Be right back. Hey! One other thing to consider if you're doing this and you're sanding down to bare metal, because you don't always need to sand down to bare metal. You just need to sand down to a layer that is adhering to the bare metal. Sometimes that might be the parent paint color. But if you are sanding down to bare metal, and anywhere you do sand down to bare metal, you want to minimize contact with your grubby little mitts, because the oils in your fingers and in your hands will create rust, because the oils in your hand are hygroscopic, meaning it tracks moisture. And so maybe buy some nitrile gloves to minimize skin contact with the clean metal. Wear gloves and you can touch it to your heart's content.
You okay? Hey, you all right? Oh, my goodness. That was quite a fall. You okay? Okay. I'll set you up over someplace a little where can I put you? This is kind of I'll just have to sit right here, I guess. Now, be a little more careful. There. Here's another little tip. You notice here on the hood here, there's some filler where there was some dings in the hood and stuff. Going over the DA, you can get pretty aggressive with the DA, and this stuff, you know, even 120 grit, even this worn out 120 grit, can be pretty aggressive on plastic body fillers. So when you come to a spot that you know is pretty good, like these spots right here, I don't feel the low spot anymore, right? So I want to be, you notice on the field where there's no body filler, you can be a little more aggressive, apply more pressure, and use the edge of the pad a little more to force that grit down in and try to lift that rust that's down in the grain of the metal. But if you try to do that over the body filler, you'll just create divots in the body filler. So you want to flatten your pad out and feather into those edges and try to avoid digging into the filler. That will save you time and money. Better yet, don't wait 5 years or 10 years to paint your car. Just get it done. But I digress. And sanding on raw metal is really hard on sanding discs. These sanding discs are designed to cut through paint, not cut through metal. So when you get down to bare metal, you're going to go through more sandpaper than if you were just sanding like body filler or paint. Bear that in mind. If you're trying to lay out a budget for materials, budget 2 to 3 times more than you thought you were going to budget for sandpaper. How about wearing ears? Why am I not wearing ears? That's a fiddlestick. Probably a good idea to wear hearing protection too. I'm just saying. So it looks like it's going to take roughly six pads, 6 sanding discs to do this hood. I don't think you need to see another 20 minutes of me sanding on a car. It's pretty much the same thing across the board. So when I come back to you when I'm done for the day, okay? I'll see you in a minute.
A few moments later.
Let's see. 2 hours. Hour and 45, really.
Okay, that'll do it for today. Tomorrow, I think I'll come out here and sand the lower portion on this side. I'll knock this side out. I'm fairly certain all the filling has been done on this side, with the exception of maybe a little, pinhole here and there. So maybe I'll rotate the front, I'll move this engine up here and I'll rotate the front of the car so I can get a little more light, because there's very little light on that side of the shop. And we'll just peck away at it. You know how you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So let's see how far we can get this week. It's Tuesday at the time of this recording. Let's see where we're sitting on Friday. By just 1 hour, a minimum of 1 hour a day. I'll put some product links down in the description, the products that I use in this build. And if you're so inclined to purchase said products, please, I'm an Amazon affiliate. Anything that you buy off Amazon through those links, I get a little bit of commission off of. And bodywork ain't cheap. It helps defray some of the costs. So if you can afford to do that, fantastic. Thanks for doing that in advance. Excuse me while I cough up a lung. Links for things like the MotoGuard filter and the 3M respirators that I use. Yeah, if you can afford to do that, that'd be great. If you can't afford to do that, then we're probably related. So if you like this build, hammer away the like button and share this with your vast social media network. That certainly helps to garner some traffic to this channel. I appreciate that. Thank you in advance. And if you haven't done so yet, please consider clicking the subscribe button and then the little bell icon right next to it, because you can click the sub button all day long and YouTube still isn't going to do anything. So click the sub button and the little bell button right next to it so you can be notified of future uploads. And until next time, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep the powder dry, and have a splendid day. What am I going to do with the rest of my afternoon? I'm going to go work on the bus. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Postscript. Let's see how this filter looks. Can you see how wet that is? It's pretty wet. Yeah, it's got quite a bit of moisture in it. So, side note, old Ed Krupp, he would use a roll of toilet paper, and Ed was cheaper than me. He would use the single ply toilet paper, the stuff that feels like bark. And those rolls are just the right size. And he would put a roll in there, and when it got wet, he would take it out, he would set it on the toilet and let it dry out, and then when it dried out, he would put it on a toilet paper roll and wipe his ass with it. Nothing went to waste at Ed's shop. There's quite a bit of moisture in there. So if you do get one of these MotoGuards and you use it to trap moisture, it might be a good idea at the end of the day to take the filter element out and let it air dry. Out here in the Southwest, that might take 15 or 20 minutes, but if you live out east, it might take a couple of days, so have some filters on hand. But they work. The only moisture that's fallen on that body today came from condensation from the respirator. Oh, and don't forget to empty the moisture out of your compressor. And postscript.